Hey guys, coming on for Jessica Jones, Season 1, Episode 4, aka 99 Friends. And I was definitely looking forward to this episode. Really been loving the show so far. They've really been very consistent. And this was another really great episode. Apart from one scene, I really loved this episode, I have to say. There was a twist in this episode that was genuinely shocking, which I really loved. There were some really great scenes in this episode. And we really got the film noir feel in this episode, definitely, which I definitely really love. They played, like, jazz music in this episode, which I definitely really liked, and that's something that works very well in the show, is the fact we're getting that film noir feel. But let's just get into this episode. We had this really great narration from Jessica first, because as we know at the end of the last episode, Jessica found out that people are taking pictures of her, and she doesn't know who this is. So the entire episode, that pretty much is what she's trying to do, trying to figure out who this person might be. She sees people exit a subway station, and she narrates how it only takes one word or one suggestion for them to no longer be in control. All they know is an intense need to follow her, photograph her, and not get caught. So she knows whoever this person is obviously a spy for Kilgrave, and they have no distractions, only an acute focus on her. Unfortunately, they're not interested in Luke, so he should be safe. Now, Luke is not in this entire episode, and I think for two reasons. One, it's awkward because obviously the whole situation with his wife, she doesn't want to get involved with that, nor does she want to tell him, and every time she sees him, she's probably going to think that. Two, she wants him to be safe. So those are probably the two reasons why Luke is not in this episode. So Jessica gets a text message, she heads to her office, and we see Audrey Eastman is waiting. And this was interesting. She had like a side case in this episode while she's dealing with Kilgrave. And I like seeing that because, Jessica still has to deal with that because obviously that's her job. That's what she has to do. So she was referred to by Jessica by her divorce attorney, and Malcolm is trying and failing to get into his apartment, and the woman is startled, and Jessica helps him into his apartment, and we're kind of under the impression that Jessica is really the only one that helps him, and obviously he really appreciates her services, obviously, and I like that he keeps telling her she's very kind, but the way he says, you're very kind, is almost like nobody else is really kind to him. He doesn't really get a lot of sympathy from a lot of people. He probably startles a lot of people. It's really sad, honestly. I felt bad for Malcolm, although the ending of this episode, we'll get into that, but this was interesting, the fact that Malcolm was kind of, like I said, I kind of felt bad for him here, just because he obviously goes through a lot, and some people really, do this for him. So I definitely, I definitely really like this. I definitely really like that scene. So Jessica puts her whiskey away, and Audrey explains her husband's affairs and lays a photo on her desk, and I like how this really had nothing to do with Kilgrave, because I was thinking, is this woman connected to Kilgrave? No, this is just simply another case that Jessica has to deal with, and it really goes well in this episode because of all the stress she's going through. So she looks at the window, investigates the apartment, and questions Jessica's abilities and commitment, and Audrey wants photos of her husband and his skank, as she calls them, for the divorce, so she doesn't have to pay him. She needs to catch him in the action. She tells Jessica Friday night her husband says he has an appointment, but the appointment doesn't exist, and Jessica questions whether Audrey has spoken to a well-dressed British man, and she says she hasn't. So Jessica knows right away this girl has nothing to do with Kilgrave, and obviously she wants to know, could she be the photographer? Obviously she's not, so I like this, though, because, this is usually what Jessica does, and, this is her job, and she most times would be into this case, she'd be helping them out, but now that she has this whole situation with Kilgrave, it's kind of, distracting her from her job, which is very interesting. I really like that. So Trish calls Jessica. Right away, we realize that Trish isn't dead, and I love this twist that Trish isn't dead. And we get a lot more with Will in this episode. We don't get a lot of Luke, but we get a lot more with the cop Will, who I really like his character. The cops are at her door. She's frightened because, obviously, she knows what happened the last time. So Jessica directs her to the safe room. She starts to head to Trish's, and a neighbor looks on as the cops try to burst through Trish's door, and Jessica climbs to the balcony. Trish gets the door for her. Jessica looks at the monitor and sees the cop using a ram to bust it open, and the man's trying to find Trish's body because he thinks he killed Trish, according to Jessica, that he killed Trish, which obviously he didn't, but he's pretty convinced that, yeah, he did in fact kill Trish, and we know that he didn't, but Jessica's trying to make him think that, which is interesting the way she was doing that. I thought that was interesting with that, but he basically thinks that he killed Trish, and of course, he didn't, but, obviously, the cop will recognize Jessica. The other cop is surprised to hear Trish is alright and asks if she's been attacked, and she says she hasn't been attacked, and the other cop tells her he was a big fan. The other cop questions what happened, and Trish shows him the bruises on her neck, which are from when he choked her, and Jessica escorts him out. So yes, he did do some damage to her. He left some bruises on her neck, and you do see that how scared Trish is in this episode. I mean, she really is scared. I mean, obviously, he attacked her, so she's worried he's going to come after her at any time. She has no idea when he's going to strike next, and outside, Jessica pulls him aside and asks what happened, and of course, she wants to know really what's going on here. So I thought they were going to reveal that Will was going to be the one taking the pictures, and we'll get into that, but she tells him that she knocked Trish out, and Will really feels bad about this. He really feels bad about trying to kill Trish. I mean, I was happy that he felt bad about it, and you really see, this side of him this episode. He really sees things as either he does what Kilgrave tells him to do, or he doesn't, because we do realize in this episode that he is working for Kilgrave, and Jessica tells him it was Kilgrave was the one who wanted Trish dead, not him, and he wants to take action, but Jessica insists that she has it under control. She's not going to let Kilgrave control him. She's not going to let the same thing that happened with Hope to happen to, she's not going to let the same thing that Hope to happen to Will, and Hope is not in this episode either. I'm sure we'll see her again, she's just not in this episode. So Trish basically gets on the radio for a show, and I thought that's so smart what Jessica did. Obviously, Trish kind of bashed Kilgrave last time, and really made him pissed, and obviously, now this is all making sense. The reason that Kilgrave wanted Will to go after Trish is because Trish badmouthed him, and he wanted to be portrayed in a positive way, and he doesn't want to be portrayed in that bad way, so Trish basically apologized for the way she disrespected and challenged Kilgrave during her last broadcast, and you can tell that she really doesn't want to say it, but she has to protect herself, which is really interesting. Even though she doesn't specifically say, I don't want to say this, you can just tell by the tone in her voice and her mannerisms that she really doesn't believe what she's saying. She's really only saying this to protect herself from Kilgrave, which honestly makes sense, but obviously is not really how she feels. So it's kind of sad because, she wants to speak her mind. She wants to say, I don't like the way Kilgrave is doing things. I don't think it's the right thing that he's doing. I don't think that he is very good. And obviously, he doesn't want to be portrayed that way. I think it's the first instance, without seeing Kilgrave, we kind of know his character. He doesn't want to be portrayed as a bad man. He wants to be portrayed as a good person because I don't think he thinks that he's done anything wrong. Definitely. You see that in this episode that I don't really think Kilgrave thinks he's done anything wrong. Without even seeing him, I think we know that. So the two walk around outside and a civilian takes photographs, startling her. She tells Trish about Kilgrave watching her every move, and that's really creepy, but honestly, I believe that Kilgrave would do that. Just the way that Kilgrave is, he obviously, like I said, wants to be portrayed in this positive way and doesn't want Trish bad-mouthing him. So back at her apartment, Jessica deletes photos of Luke. She narrates saying she doesn't need reminders of what she did to Luke, and she doesn't want to remember Luke. And I understand why she's doing this, but she's gonna have to face him at some point. I understand that Jessica obviously feels really bad, and just, it's awkward right now, but you need to come clean to him. Like, seriously, you need to come clean. You need to tell him what you did. I know it's gonna be hard, but you have to do it. There's certain things that we don't want to do, and she's gonna have to do that. Again, she really doesn't want to do that, but we know that she's gonna have to do that at some point. I don't know when she's gonna have to do it, but at some point she's gonna have to face Luke and have to tell him the truth. And it's something I know she doesn't want to do, but it's just that's something she has to do, and she needs to understand that. And as much as she tries to get away from it, it's really not gonna work. I don't think that's gonna work. The way she wants to. So we'll have to see what happens with that. So that definitely is going to be interesting. So basically, Jerry is on the phone insisting that the man on the phone's clients poison people's pets, and Jessica storms in, cuts off the potential $50 million settlement, and Jessica asks if Jerry knows Audrey Eastman, because she wants to know the connection to Audrey, and Jerry confirms that Audrey is a client and her husband is a partner. And it's interesting that she tells Jerry this, because we know that Jerry is cheating on her wife, so I don't know if Jessica was wondering if this was Jerry's wife or something, I'm not really sure. But basically, her husband's a partner, and that's how she knows Audrey. And I thought that was interesting the way we found that out. So Trish calls Jessica, wonders how she can trust anyone, because obviously, if there are photographers after her and Kilgrave watching her every move, how the fuck can she trust anyone? So I like what Jessica says, that Jessica has been following Audrey since dawn, and explains the situation to Trish, because they don't know if Audrey is working for Kilgrave or not. Even though she says no, she could very well be lying, so they need they need a distraction. Trish asks how she'll know if she is Kilgraved, and Jessica explains that he'll show soon, because his powers don't last more than 10 or 12 hours, and if he doesn't, she'll get the picture. So that's interesting. So Jessica calls the cops and asks for a surveillance video. He asks for times, dates, and locations. She texts them to him. He says that he's got her 6, and definitely you can see that she has a very well done plan here. And then we get to the only scene I really care about in this episode. We go back to, we've been steering away from Jerry and her wife and her receptionist, and I've been glad they've done that, but now it's back in this episode, and it's still not interesting. I want them to make this interesting, but it's still not interesting, and I'll tell you guys why. Because this show is so much better than that. This show does not need a cheating storyline, an affair storyline. They don't need any of that. We see Jerry and her receptionist are having lunch. Her wife kisses a man inside and leaves. This is the restaurant where Jerry proposed, and the new girlfriend wants to go somewhere else. Jerry insists that she will never call back to her wife. Her new girlfriend won't eat there. I just don't care about this. I really want to care, guys, but they're not doing anything different. They're not doing anything new, and they're not really giving me a reason to care. Again, I would really love to care. They could make this interesting. They're just really not, and I want to be interested. I really want to get into this storyline. I like seeing Jerry's personal life. I want to know about Jerry's personal life, but just because everything else is so much more interesting, I can't get into this. I really want to, but I can't. Every time it comes on, I'm just like, nope, tune it out, I don't care. And, yeah, so they can, like I said, they can find a way to make this interesting. You could have some big reveal or something. Maybe have her girlfriend work, maybe have her wife work with Kilgrave. That could be interesting. But until they connect it to this main plot, I'm not interested. I'm really not. Just because on any other show I'd be fine, but this show is just too good for it. I really don't think this show needs this plot. I understand they want to do something with Jerry, but for God's sake, give her something else to do, because this is really boring, I gotta say. It's the only thing that I have problems with in this show. It's the only problem I've had, and it's the only thing that made this episode from not being great. This episode was great, but it's the only scene in this episode that wasn't great. Every scene was great except for this scene, and it really is boring me. So, rant's over. I'm not a fan of this plot. Let's get back to stuff I do care about, because that's what most of this episode focused on, thank God. Luckily, we don't get any more scenes of that. So Jessica explains that if Audrey's controlled by Kilgrave, it will wear off soon, and Audrey enters a building. She puts her things down and starts playing loud rock music. She draws a gun from her purse, and I like that Jessica made her aware of Kilgrave, because obviously she needs to know what was going on here. So Jessica sees her wearing eye protection, fires a gun, then bursts into the seemingly abandoned building. She then approaches with the anesthesia in hand, and Audrey continues shooting at mannequins. Jessica justifies the woman's actions by wanting to use the gun on her husband rather than being controlled by Kilgrave, and that was obviously very smart of her, because, when you have an affair, you do things that are kind of irrational, and that's a good example of that, and I thought that was smart that Jessica did that, the way she's trying to help her out. So later, Jerry presents Jessica with a number of people who contact her after being affected by Kilgrave, and Jessica starts interrogating them. And we get to one of the funniest scenes in this episode. I absolutely loved this scene. Probably the funniest scene we've had on this show, because she hears some really fucked up stories here. They describe a man who's not really Kilgrave. One man shares an account of what Kilgrave wanted in his jacket, and he gave it to him despite not actually wanting to give it away in expensive jackets. There's this little girl who thinks that Kilgrave's hot because he never wears a shirt, and the mom's concerned because every time this man comes up, people spread their legs for him. Clearly the person they're describing is not Kilgrave. Some guy's like on drugs, and he's like, oh yeah, Kilgrave gave me drugs. It's such a fun scene, and what I love about this scene is that while this show is very dark, it's not afraid to have fun, and I love this scene. It's probably one of my favorite scenes, honestly, in the show so far. Just seeing people's different reactions to a man who's not Kilgrave is great. I really do love this. This does make me wonder, are there like copycats out there? Are there people working for him? Because if they heard the name Kilgrave, who do they think she's talking about? That's kind of what I was wondering there. But I did find it quite funny, especially the daughter's reaction. That was the one that got me. The one where the daughter was like, oh, he's so hot, he never wears a shirt. That I just thought was really funny. So Jessica tells Jerry to put this man on the list, and, they're thinking that this man could possibly be working for Kilgrave, because obviously, when they say Kilgrave and they think of this man, who could this man be that they're talking about? So Jessica leaves certain people to network with one another. She explains to Jerry that she's using them to find out everything that happened and everything else she can about Kilgrave from these people, which I thought was smart that she did that. Even the most ridiculous information she's still going to use, because it very well could be possible that they're lying or that this person could be Kilgrave. could be working with Kilgrave. So Jerry claims that if Kilgrave was on their side, they could solve a lot of problems, which really pisses Jessica off. She punches the glass door, cracks it, startling the group inside, and she's obviously really upset. So she walks home, she's hollered by men, it frustrates her. She's startled when Will, dressed casually, stops her, and Malcolm is there. The cop quickly approaches, questioning what Malcolm is looking at, and Jessica stops him from attacking him, tells the cop about the support group, offering him a way to cope, but he abruptly leaves, and inside, Jessica watches another security footage of herself and tries to find an angle where the pictures were taken from, but she narrates that she now knows what it feels like to be watched all the time, and seen in private moments as she downs the last of her whiskey. She counts her money, stuffs it in her pocket, and grabs the anesthesia before heading out the door. So, obviously, again, you can see that the whiskey really helps her out, and she still doesn't really know what's going on here. So, basically, we then get one of the creepiest scenes in this episode. This episode gave us one of the funniest, and also probably the creepiest scene we've had on the show so far. Now, remember those kids that Kilgrave was controlling? I'm pretty sure this young girl that Jessica meets is a victim of Kilgrave, because she stopped with this young girl, and at first the young girl is just saying, oh, I can't find my mom, I don't know where she is, and all she's saying is, Patsy Walker is safe, you don't have to worry about her for now. Patsy is Trish, apparently. That's Trish's real name, is Patsy. Interesting. But she tells her that the man told her after he liked her apology, and this girl, keep in mind, is 8.5 years old, and she's swearing like a sailor. She's telling Jessica, you're a piece of shit, you need to fucking understand things, and she's literally, saying, F-bombs and dropping things like that. I mean, I was surprised, by this show. I mean, that's something you won't get on a Marvel show, is have a girl swear. Really, I mean, they don't have F-bombs, obviously, because the show doesn't use the word fuck, but she does say shit. She says, that she's a bitch and things like that, and just, it's a really interesting scene, and she starts insulting Jessica, saying she could have saved Kilgrave from getting hit by the bus, and now we know why Kilgrave is so upset. Most likely that is how Kilgrave got injured, was getting hit by that bus, and that's probably why he's so mad at Jessica, because he obviously wanted to, he wanted her to save him. She didn't save him, and that's why he's upset. So I like that, again, that we're not seeing Kilgrave, but we're very slowly finding out what Kilgrave wants with her. It's very interesting the way they're handling that, and I really like that. So she says that it's Friday, don't you have a job to? Jessica grabs the girl, she starts screaming and calling for her mother. Her mother rushes over to protect her from Jessica, and obviously the girl realized the act was up. So I don't know if the girl was possessed by Kilgrave, or Kilgrave was doing something. Again, we still aren't aware of all of Kilgrave's powers. There could be stuff that Kilgrave can do that we just don't know about yet, and I think that's a very good example of that. What she did there, I think, was all Kilgrave. That was definitely not the little girl. That was all Kilgrave that was doing that. So Trish gets a doorbell ring from Will. He's there to make things right. He brought her something for her. I really like the scenes between Trish and Will in this episode. He tells her it's personal. She tells him to put the box on the floor and go to the end of the hall. He does. She obviously does not want to see him because of what happened the last time. So she grabs the box as he watches. She sits down to open it and sees a gun inside, and he's dressed casually. He approaches the door and asks if she opened it. He just wants her to feel safe, and Trish asks if it's legal, and he tells her it isn't. He asks if she's still there. She isn't. She's pointing the gun at him from the other side of the door. She's basically ready to just attack him and kill him, because she knows what he did before to her. She doesn't know if he's going to attack her again, so she's got her gun ready, and that was very smart of Trish, obviously, to get her gun ready like that. I'm happy that she did that, because, like I said, she doesn't know if this man could come after her. She doesn't know what he could do to her, and obviously he is quite dangerous. We've seen before how dangerous he is, and this is a good example of how dangerous he is. So Jessica follows Audrey's husband, who's carrying flowers. The man enters a building. Jessica stays outside. She debates whether or not she should storm the gates to get the money shots, but elects not to, because she doesn't know what she should do here, in the event that Kilgrave somehow got to Audrey, because she doesn't know if Audrey's telling the truth when she says, I don't know who Kilgrave is, and she's very worried that Kilgrave's going to get to Audrey, and she doesn't want that to happen, because she obviously doesn't want to get to Kilgrave right now. So instead, she jumps up to the balcony to see and sees the husband enter another room. She opens the window and follows him. She hears moaning, and obviously the husband's having sex, and sees people missing around, and Audrey calls her and asks if she followed him, then asks where Jessica is, and Jessica stops responding and realizes that Audrey is inside, and Jessica claims to be bulletproof, but Audrey shoots at her and wounds her arm, and the husband wonders if her powers are real, and the wife references the man in the Aston Martin, which Jessica stopped a couple episodes episodes back, if you remember. And Jessica speaks to Kilgrave, and Audrey questions how many more gifted people there are, because of course Audrey's not aware of Inhuman. She doesn't know that Jessica's an Inhuman, and of course she is, and Audrey doesn't know about that yet, but Audrey claims that the heroes were credited for saving the city, but no one said anything about her mother being crushed, and Jessica tells her to go after the big green guy or the flag waver, of course referencing the Hulk and Captain America, which, I like these the ways they just reference them. It's very clever, and I really like that, because she wasn't even there, and Jessica, and because obviously she's not part of the Avengers. I don't know if she thought she was Black Widow or something. I mean, I can understand. Jessica does kind of look like Black Widow. Jessica attacks them and tells them they are the only people who have lost people. She trashes the room, and this scene I absolutely loved here with Jessica. I mean, you really see the pain she's going through. She attacks them, tells them that they are the only people who have lost people. She trashes the room, terrifies them while telling them that she lost people too, and we find out a lot about Jessica in this scene. I really love this here. We just get a lot of information. She's literally tearing the room apart. She's throwing things. I mean, she is a wreck right here. You really get to see her break down. I mean, I feel like we've really been getting to this all season long, but we really haven't seen Jessica really face her inner emotion. Like, she's kind of been hiding it back. She's been very, blunt. She's been very just, she's not been discreet at all. She's obviously shown her pain, but we really haven't gotten to see her really deal with it and really talk to someone about it. And I feel like now she's just so frustrated, she needs to let it out, and she really does let it out here. She trashed the room, and she tells him that her parents died in a car accident the last time she counted. She had 99 gifted friends in this borough alone, and she's going to tell every one of them about what they tried to do. They hate attempted murders, and so do the cops, and that's pretty crazy. I mean, now we know what happened to Jessica's parents. We know that, she had 99 friends, and Jessica tells them that the only way to save themselves is to disappear and never be seen again, and Jessica and her friends will stop by their mother and make sure they're gone, and that's crazy, the way that happened, the way that she truly doesn't trust them and thinks that they're after her. I mean, again, she really is facing this pain. So Jessica showers to get the blood off her, she watches it go down the drain, and she organizes files from the alleged Kilgrave victims in her office, because she doesn't, again, know who those victims are. And then we get this really great scene between Trish and Will, which I really liked. I've really been liking these scenes between them, and this is another really great scene here. I really love this. Trish sits inside her door and tells stories with Will, and he tells Trish that the guy who tried to kill her wasn't him. It was not him that tried to kill her, definitely. He knows that, and he tried to fight it, but he couldn't. And I like the story that Trish told him of, like, the only happy time she really had with her mother, because we know, obviously, her mother beat on her, we know her mother was abusive, and I like finding that out here. So Trish tells him what Kilgrave did to him, and he also, what Kilgrave did to him, he also did to Jessica, and just showing him that he can trust Jessica, that Jessica's been through the same thing. She looks at the gun before opening the door and letting him in, and I think it's really great. I don't know if they're trying to set up something between them, but I really like Trish and Will, I have to say. I like that they're going in more of a, main character direction with him. He could have just been a random cop. No, he is affected by Kilgrave, so they want to help him out, and I like the way they're going to help him out here. Because, Trish obviously thought it was crazy, but now she's realizing that this was all just Kilgrave that made him do this. So obviously, she really feels like she can help him, and Jessica can obviously help him too. So I'm hoping that they're going to be able to help him out with this, because he clearly doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't really know what's going on with him. He doesn't know why this is happening, and they're going to definitely help him out, which I'm looking forward to seeing. So Jessica walks down the streets, paranoid by passersby, thinking that any single one of these people could be the photographer. She puts her hands out and spins around before starting down the streets, and I think she did this just to see if someone take a picture of her, or if she could see a flash or something. I think at this point she's just suspicious. She's trying to make herself, look like a suspect, so that way someone will take a picture of her and then she'll know who it is. Because at this point she just wants answers. You can just tell. She's determined to get answers. She doesn't want, little clues. She wants answers. And Trish and the cop talks some more. Her hand is steadily on the gun, which is on the table. And then Jessica gets a call from Jerry, who tells her that she sent more potential victims to the group and tells her to not take out her problems on the glass walls. And, again, they don't know who this is. So the group discusses stories about their experience with Kilgrave. And again, we get some really ridiculous scenes here. One of them explains how Kilgrave forced him to leave his son on the side of the street and drive Kilgrave around. and he disappeared for a week, and he was charged with child abandonment, and this honestly is true. This man truly was affected by Kilgrave, and Jessica questions where she drove him and wonders if he ever got pictures from anyone, and he met someone every day at 10 a.m. The man wore a scarf with blue and white stripes, and this could be Kilgrave. You know, Jessica might think that this could be him, and she doesn't know who this could be, you know, who this man could be, if this really is Kilgrave. And Jessica then rushes to her apartment to watch surveillance footage because now she knows that there is surveillance footage. She knows it's out there. She wants to know where it is. And this twist I thought was great. I didn't suspect this twist at all. I thought they handled it very well. And I will say the show really knows how to do a genuinely shocking twist. This was a very good example of how to do that. I honestly was quite shocked by this twist. Hours go by, she's growing tired, she plugs away with whiskey as her handy companion, and eventually she finds a man on the video, and it's Malcolm. Yes, now this makes sense. That's why Malcolm broke into her apartment. This is why Malcolm's been kind of stalking her, because obviously he's working for Kilgrave, and she goes to Malcolm's apartment and finds a photo of her in his printer. She becomes emotional while looking at a photo of Malcolm with his grandmother, and that's how the episode ends. Now, I will say, I don't know if this is necessarily Malcolm working with Kilgrave. I don't know if this is, like, him just wanting to photograph her, or if he just likes her, or something like that. I don't really know, but I feel like Jessica's just jumping to conclusions here. I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously, it's a bit suspicious that he has photos of her, but I don't think it's right for her to just jump to conclusions that, oh yeah, this is definitely the man that's after me. Because it might not be. Malcolm might not be the person. I think she's just kind of quick to jump to assumptions. I can understand, obviously she wants answers, and the first person she sees, she's gonna think that. But, I mean, I don't know if this really is the man. I think that she is kind of just freaking out, and this could just be, this could be just be Malcolm simply just wanting to take pictures of her. I don't really know if this is him. Although I could be, I could be just, being an idiot right now, but honestly, I don't think she should make to assumptions like this. So, let's see what happens with that. That definitely is going to be very interesting. The man that talked to her about Kilgrave, was he really affected by Kilgrave? Is this really who Kilgrave was? I mean, clearly I think Kilgrave wants vengeance because Jessica didn't save him. We now know more of what his plan is. I think he definitely wants to kind of ruin Jessica's image or something like that. I'm not really sure what he's trying to do, but he clearly is upset that she didn't try to save him on that bus. That's what his main thing is. That's why he's really going after her, and that makes sense. He obviously wants to be portrayed in a positive way, and I think most likely he didn't really mean for a lot of these things to happen. I really want a Kilgrave-centric episode like they did in Daredevil with Wilson Fisk, but the show seems to be different than Daredevil was, which I kind of like. I like that we're not actually seeing a lot of Kilgrave, and I don't know if we're going to see him in the next episode. I feel like the next episode we're going to see a lot more of him, but we got to see him at some point because they got to show him more. We got to see more of what his motive is. I feel like we're going to get to that very soon. I just don't know when. I don't know when we're going to get to what his motive is, but it has to happen, right? Eventually, we got to realize, what Kilgrave is really doing here and what he really wants to do, and that's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. Let's talk about Trish. Obviously, she's worried about Trish, but I like the way that Trish and Will are bonding over this situation. Is Jessica going to help him out? I mean, definitely he was affected by Kilgrave like she was, and I really feel they're going to bond over this, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens between Trish and Jessica and Will. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with that. I can't wait to see what happens there. Audrey obviously left. I like that we had this side thing with Audrey. I thought they concluded very well, definitely. They could have easily done something really stupid, but I like that they concluded very well because we don't know if Audrey was working with Kilgrave or not. We don't know if Audrey's going to go after her. We don't know if, if Kilgrave was going to go after her, and we don't really know what's going to happen with that, so that definitely is going to be very interesting. The little girl, what did Kilgrave do to her? I'm not sure if we're going to see her again, but those kids, I feel like the reason we saw those kids in the closet with Kilgrave is because it's trying to show that Kilgrave is putting them under mind control. He's obviously trying to control them into going after Jessica, and that's a very good example of what he's trying to do. He did to this little girl, he's going to do it to other potential victims, and this is a great example of how he's going to do that, so I really like seeing that. Jerry and her wife, I really want them to make this interesting. Like I said, guys, I really want them to make this interesting. I really want them to do something more with this. I just am not into this right now just because everything else that's going on is so much more interesting. It's not bad, it's just everything else is so much more interesting, and this just isn't. And I'm not as interested as I want to be, and I wish I could say this is really interesting, but I'm just not that into it like I want to be, and I wish I was into it, but unfortunately, because of everything that's going on that's so much more interesting, I'm just really not that into it. They could make it interesting. They could make it interesting, like I said, her wife could go to Kilgrave, something like that, but I just am not really into this right now, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Clearly Trish, again, Jessica does more in a fight, but I feel like Trish at this point knows that she can't because obviously someone's after her. The whole thing with Trish wanting to fight, she can't right now. She has to basically portray him in a good light on her radio show, which she doesn't want to do. We'll have to see what happens with that. I think Jessica really wants to be the only one to confront Kilgrave, like we've seen. Jessica obviously does want to face Kilgrave. She does want to face him. She does want to go after him. And like I said, guys, by the way, I really love the noir feel of this episode. I love the jazz music towards the end of this episode. They handle that very, very well. I definitely really like that. But overall, guys, loving this show. Definitely loving this episode. Really, really great stuff so far. Every episode seems to be getting better and better, and I'm really loving it. Besides that one scene, this was an amazing episode. Let me know what you guys saw this episode, and I will see you guys in my next video. Also, Jessica's gonna have to face Luke. She needs to face Luke, honestly. Even though she wants to get away from him, she's gonna have to face him at some point. But that is my review. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of The Walking Dead, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.